March 2nd, 2022. First order of business is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to review of minutes. We have minutes for February 2nd, 2022. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from February 2nd, 2022.
Second.
Motion second. Do I hear any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. We're going to reopen the public hearing for the liquor license change of category to all alcohol for 1183 Main Street, Super Summit, Inc., doing business as Next Door Market. Mr. Patel, welcome back. So we just opened the hearing last time. So what we'll do now, if you just want to tell us a little bit, if you could please state your name and address for the record, and just tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Sure. My name is Saurabh Patel. I am owner and a manager of Super Summit, Inc., Next Door Market, 1183 Main Street in Clinton. Been at the location for 18 years. We filed a petition to have a liquor license on the premises to add another category, since I've been at that location for quite some time. Prior to this petition, for several years, existing customers always wanted that product in there, and we found a way to do it, filed the petition. It got dropped at the legislation office one time during COVID, and then reapplied again.
Yeah.
And it took, I think it's been 3 years in process, and finally got approved or signed by the governor on November of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to all liquor, or
Yes.
a beer and wine?
Yeah,
plus
I have a beer and wine, and I'm adding a
full.
liquor too.
Okay. I will open this up to anyone in favor of this petition. We'll close that part. Is anyone here to speak in opposition of the petition? I'll close that portion. Any questions from the board? What's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the full liquor license have been approved by the State Alcohol Commission.
I'll second that.
Motion made second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Good luck.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
You're
All of
welcome.
you guys have a good evening.
The board's received an application for a common victual license from Felipe Fernandez de Souza, doing business as Delicias de Nossa Terra, pardon my Brazilian, to operate a restaurant business at 9 Sterling Street in Clinton. There's an application in the packet. Please come forward. Welcome.
Hi, Regina Becca-Paridi and Felipe Souza, the owner of the business.
Welcome. Have a seat.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Thank you.
What are we trying to do?
First and foremost, I want to thank everybody from the town of Clinton. We have been so well received. Mr. Duffy, Mr. Salmon, everybody we have encountered is his first restaurant. I am more of his minion. I'm in for the food. So I'm really trying to help him out. So thank you all. We appreciate any feedback or any guidance. He's trying to open a Monday through Sunday Brazilian restaurant, no liquor. It's going to be buffet style, giving more of the Brazilian flavor of the barbecue, as well as some American staples. He's been a chef. He was a chef at Fireflies in Marlborough for many years. His sister has trained in Portugal. She owned restaurants in Brazil. She's been working as a chef here in Brazil, in America for 4 years now. So they want to get that family Brazilian style to everybody here.
Terrific. Are there any questions from the board? Where are we on this, Michael? It's just the Board of Health is, we're just doing the common vic here.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
The Board of Health would have their whole food permit.
Great.
So as long as they get the common vic, they're allowed to have a restaurant there, then they'll get the rest of their occupancy and their, from the building inspector and their food permit from the Board of Health. Yep.
Great.
Thanks.
Does the board have any questions? It's a pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we grant a common vic license to 9 Sterling Street.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Good luck.
you very much.
Does it-
Looking forward to
Uh,
being
We
here.
are
Best
too.
of luck.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
thinking of
much.
us.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
I know.
The board has received an application from Brody's Cabrera Mejia, doing business as Brody's Automotive for a commercial garage license to operate on the premises located at 640 High Street in Clinton. There is an application enclosed. Welcome. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
640 High Street, Unit B.
And what are we trying to do?
I was partnered with the guy that has the garage before, and he is his left, and I'm trying to get the garage for myself to do basic mechanic and small body repairs, like how he was doing before.
So is there a change of, this is what's been going on there?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we need to know about this?
No, there was a commercial garage license to another business at that location as well, too, so.
Great.
So.
All right. Are there any questions from the board? Nothing? Pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we grant the license as long as it's all in accordance with the building inspector and the fire chief.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Good luck.
Thank you.
I see some members, yeah. Murderer's row back there. If you want to come on up. Ed couldn't join us tonight, but we wanted to, when the pandemic started, the members of the cable committee, in coordination with school leadership, wanted to do our best to make viewing sports, high school sports, high school and I guess JV too, as viewable as possible, seeing as the state had taken that away from a lot of people. I didn't have any idea of what would come from it, but everything I hear and anything I see has just been completely top-notch, and we hear that compared to other school districts that we play at, and I know Ed was especially thrilled to see it up at the Crystal Club on a Friday night. That was his dream, and so we just wanted to make sure that you felt appreciated. You know, we're happy, we're always willing to give the equipment and the resources, but it takes the talent to bring that stuff to life. So we have some certificates that I still need to sign that will get out in the mail, but we wanted to thank you, and Mark's here too. So keep up the great work. I know we've tried, we've expanded, it started with basketball, we've expanded to other sports, but we're always willing to try new things with people who are excited about getting our kids out in front of some eyes. So I'll open it up to the board. If anybody else has anything to add.
Mr. Chair, we should ask them, the upcoming tournament game for the high school, there's a small venue and people can't go, so we'll ask them
Do you want to put a
go on
plug
the
in?
road,
Right.
and maybe they can live stream from Georgetown. So, but they've done it.
We inquired about that, and we said, if it's capped, can we bring our live stream team? And they said no, because it would take up too much space in the
Is that right? But they've done a great job and been able to follow the teams either in person or on TV. So we thank you for all your work.
Yeah, I want to say thank you too, because I watch it myself, especially when I can't make it, when I'm making dinner, but you've made a lot of grandparents happy and outside of the Clinton family members, so thank you.
And they had a viewer from Illinois who has no connection to Clinton, just based upon the production itself. I guess he was looking for Clinton, Illinois, and he stumbled upon Massachusetts, and he became a Gale fan.
Yeah, I think the commentary too is really appreciated, and I know like the kids appreciate like hearing their names called out and being put on that pedestal, so grateful.
Thank you again.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Keep it up.
Seeing as Ed can't make it tonight, we're going to table the discussion on the Strand until our next meeting, which brings us to Mr. Duffy. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, good evening. Thank you. We're here tonight to discuss downtown in 2022 and to follow through on some of the recommendations of last year's local rapid recovery plan, which among other things recommended that we undertake a series of events or place-making activities to attract the downtown to build on the infrastructure project that we did last year and try to cultivate an identity within the community and within the region of Clinton as our region's downtown. So we had talked about a number of events in terms of doing that and hiring a downtown coordinator to undertake a number of activities. In anticipation of tonight's meeting, in addition to speaking to one short-term event, I'd like to broach the idea of hiring on a consultant basis someone to perform that function, the function of a downtown coordinator, to undertake certain, not all, but certain of the recommendations of the local rapid recovery plan. These would include basically planning and implementing a series of events in the downtown, providing a calendar of those events, as well as budgets for each event, and being responsible for all the logistics of that event, communications, marketing, all that kind of thing. To include some district marketing and communication. That was another recommendation of the plan that came out of surveys that were completed by local businesses in terms of what their needs were. There was expressed a need to kind of make people more aware of Clinton and to do some marketing. There was requests in the surveys for the provision of technical assistance. This was back in February of 2021. These included things like migrating to online platforms, having more of an online presence, as well as business-specific advice on things like marketing, sometimes best business practices, retail styling, the things that places where a little bit of professional advice can benefit a business. We're not looking for somebody to necessarily provide those or have that expertise, but to be able to work with those people so that we can coordinate and put them in touch with the best people who can help them. And then finally, capacity building, the idea of a kind of strengthening a community of stakeholders, making sure that people know each other, that they understand what common interests they may have, what common concerns they may have, create an entity that can function to articulate those concerns to the community and those desires, and I hopefully identify future resources that can be used to address these needs and concerns. I've also included in italics here another element of the plan which may or may not be suitable for this person. It's new business recruitment. It strikes me that may be a different skill set, and we may want to contract for that separately, but it's another thing that was mentioned in the plan that we may want to undertake. After having done some research on what is being done in other communities and other nonprofits, I'm proposing that if we were to create this position, that contract amount be approximately $55,000. That seems to be about the going rate, though in many other communities it's actually a paid position with benefits. So what we're proposing to do here is to hire as a consultant basis for a period of less than a year, and also to provide an activities budget, initially of about $25,000. This money coming from ARPA. This is an eligible use for ARPA funds, economic recovery, and this is something that we've discussed in the past, and I'm putting it forward to you to see what questions you may have, what comments or insights you may have, what concerns you may have. Certainly don't necessarily seek endorsement this evening, but I'd like to put this on the table so that hopefully we can follow up and if necessary, make modifications to this request for qualifications and get it out on the street as soon as possible.
Questions?
I have one question. This is grant money and it's only temporary,
Yes.
temporary position, correct?
If this is a temporary grant-funded position, what I'm proposing we do is that as we advertise it, that we put it out for a one-year contract with an understanding that we would probably renew a second year and then evaluate where we are. ARPA funds have to be expended before 2026, so that's 5 fiscal years in advance. But this would give us an opportunity to begin something, to evaluate our performance and make any changes either to the scope of work or to the person who's doing the work as we go along. But again, these are ARPA funds, American Recovery Plan funds.
Not local tax money.
It's no money from the local levy at all, no.
Is there any opportunity to have this position involved with the Old Home Day, being that there's transition through that?
There absolutely is. I think that would be a different budget. I think we'd have to expand the number, but I absolutely think there could be. I think what we're looking for is a person with very similar skills. It's effectively event planning. I think we're talking about something that's not as big as Old Home Day, but absolutely. And if we wanted, I don't know if that would kind of fall under ARPA, I don't know if that's an ARPA use, but the skill set is the same.
Yeah. I think, Mr. Chair, I think it would certainly come under the same umbrella, because the ARPA money is for economic development. So the more that we're doing to try to generate customer and foot traffic to help businesses, I think it would all fall within that umbrella, so.
Yeah, we certainly want to refine. What we're looking to do here is to hire through a consultant, as a consultant, so that it's a separate thing. Many other communities work through nonprofit organizations to hire this position. So there's another option that's available to us is to approach Discover Clinton to see if they feel they have the administrative capacity to undertake this for us. It might free up some sort of procurement. I did approach one of the officers of Discover Clinton, but I haven't had the chance to approach all of the officers to understand what their taste is for that and what they would need from that as well. We wouldn't expect them to do that for free, for instance.
Mm-hmm. What, okay, so backing up, as a consultant, would this person, do we have like hours a week, or how long, how much can we expect to see them in town?
Well, I think what we'd want to do as a request for qualifications is try to understand what the scope of work is and what we think we can get for the funds. Obviously, you all know in all fields right now, it is definitely a seller's market for labor. So, we've created a number here, a budget, which I think should be adequate for a 9-month contract, as well as an initial activities budget. But, I think we should have a discussion as to what that calendar is. Just to simplify it, if it comes down to a choice between doing 3 big events or 6 small events, I think we want to have a discussion with somebody who has experience in these kinds of things to understand how we want to proceed.
And how realistic is this? I mean, it's going to be spring soon, so what's your proposed timeline for getting this person on board?
I'd like to advertise as soon as possible.
Okay.
We see what kind of responses we get. Fitchburg advertises the position in August. To be honest, I'm not sure. I need to call up to Tom and see what kind of response they got. I'd like to get that person involved pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Some events I think would be very simple to coordinate.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, we talked about the pop-up pub last year. As long as we have the budget and commitment from the owner of the space, which we do. I spoke to him earlier this week. That might be a simple one, but there's more complex. The Halloween walk is another one that I think would be a good one to hand off. That's something that exists that we can build on, I think. But in terms of other events, I think we need to know what the lead time is.
Okay.
In the short term, there's another event which I would like to undertake. It doesn't necessarily fall under economic development, but the consultant that we worked with last winter to do the winter market in another town had done a volunteer fair, effectively bringing all your nonprofits or volunteer organizations in a community into a place where new people, for instance, new residents who are interested in becoming involved in the community can learn a little bit more about what opportunities there are to become involved in the community. It seems like an excellent idea, especially as it seems that anecdotally we seem to have a lot of new people moving to town. Again, anecdotally, I see more young people walking around Central Park than I ever did before. So I think this might be an opportunity to do something to bring people into the downtown, bring people who are specific to the community into downtown, and potentially build some social capital within the community.
Yeah, that was something back when we used to do MMA conferences in person. There was a workshop that I went to that was the same sort of thing. It wasn't quarterly, but maybe semi-annually they would, basically offer a booth to anybody. It could be Boy Scouts, it could be the DPW, and just so people could come and understand where the recycling center is, or if you want to drop off a mattress or something, or join a church group, and just opening it up pretty wide to like a kind of Clinton 101 to for those organizations to get their face out in front of people, and for people who are new to come in. So I think something like that's great, and it's again pretty open-ended. It's not like we have to program anything, we just have to have a space and make sure everybody
Yeah,
knows.
that's the kind of event that you can size to your budget, quite frankly. There's no reason to overdo that one,
Right.
quite frankly. So.
Right. Terrific. So, what am I missing here? Yeah, I agree. I'll leave it up to the board, but I'm fine endorsing, at least getting this out there and seeing what we have. I don't mind.
Yeah,
I know Ed would be
Yeah.
okay with it.
All right. I'll make a motion, put it in motion.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I'll get
well,
that
hold
as,
on, we'll vote first.
oh, yeah, sure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to authorize the proposal and advertise for the 9 months, or I'll leave you the details up to you to see what we can get for downtown coordinator out of ARPA money. Any discussion?
Yeah, then all of the, obviously, the final proposal information and details will
That'll
all
all
come back to the
us,
board
right.
before anything's
Yeah,
approved, so let's at least get it started.
Let's get our
Yeah, I
hook in the
know.
water.
Yeah.
What, like I said, it's tough to find people, so.
and to that point, I would negotiate, I would consult with Mr. Ward, but because we know this from our experience trying to hire positions. If it's a situation where we identify the right person, but we need to move on the number, I would speak to Mr. Ward and bring that to you for a contract signature, but it is a seller's market right now for labor.
Yep.
And if we need to be a little bit flexible.
Well, let's get out there and test the waters and see what we got, so.
Yep.
All
Okay.
right, any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, all's in favor? Aye. Opposed, 4-0. Hey, Michael, could you get Mark, there's apparently some questions about this picture quality. Picture quality, we're getting some questions. Is Mark on?
Okay, we'll go up and talk.
Okay, thank you. You guys want to come back to the big room? All right. So, all right, do we have anything on vacant spaces? I don't know if you have any more to talk about. I was curious about the planning, I was speaking to the planning board chair informally, and I know there was a task force to look at vacant properties, and the school committee moved to at least consider other town uses for the old fire station.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to figure out, it's a big puzzle and a lot of pieces, and as town meeting's coming up, we have the clock on the armory is ticking. Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw the email, but was it New Bedford?
Yes, I did see the email.
New Bedford apparently has an armory that they are buying for $10, and I misread the thing. It said $3.3 million to go into fixing the roof and other structural things. I thought they were putting that in. The state's putting that in because they they won't buy it without the roof
The
fixed.
state?
So
Yeah.
I sent something to Michael, like,
Yeah.
maybe we can try and get a better deal. It's
Take it with some money with it.
Well, and
Yeah.
they actually have every intention to flip it too, is according to what the mayor was saying in this
Really?
newspaper story. Yep. So
Really? That's pretty
I
interesting.
don't know.
Maybe something to look into.
I don't want to ruin our negotiating here, but all I'm saying is like these things are starting to percolate up, and I don't know where the task force is or where we are with these things and how coordinated we need to be with other boards, and what you think the best, or if we need to start thinking of best as steps forward.
Well, generally, the task force, I think, has been dealing with 6 properties that are in one phase or another of movement towards resolution of their status. There are 2 tax title properties on that list, 329 High Street, which we finally received a revised scope of work from our consultants for the brownfields grant we got last year. Hopefully, that work should be completed. It's possible that work could be completed by June 30th, if we get it under contract and get it out to bid soon. So that property should be ready to be disposed of by RFP by this summer, and ideally before the end of this fiscal year. 172 Sterling Street is still up in the air. We're waiting to hear on 1 grant, and we've received some dispiriting news on some additional contamination on the site. But we will be following up with the recommendation of our LSP as to another way to potentially address a cost-prohibitive contamination on the site that was unanticipated. The fire station, as you know, the fire department has requested that the town consider that property for EMT services. And at the task force committee today, we briefly went over processes that presumably the fire department and your board, would discuss as to how to move that forward. Obviously, some assessment has to be done in the facility, some design has to be done to understand how the proposed use is accommodated by that building and how code issues will be met, and a cost proposal has to be generated so that we know what we're getting into and what kind of money has to be sought. Another property that is a long-term question is the school administration building. That probably would not be acted upon until we have some certainty as to the direction of the middle school, at least. That's actually a very interesting property because of, it's a potentially very flexible property, and it's a very interesting space. You know, it's two things. It's the building, and then it's the 2 acres right in the middle of downtown. So we have to think very long term about how we want to deal with those. And with Mr. Buzzard's permission, I'll keep speaking because he's on the committee. The other 2 properties that have been looked at are 239 Chestnut Street, which is the old Legion property. While we are still waiting for any final word on whether the state will be using any of its ARPA funds for housing or in support of housing, if you read the tea leaves, it's likely that even if it were to be used for housing, it wouldn't necessarily be used for the kind of housing that we contemplate on that site, which is senior housing or affordable housing. Perhaps
Why?
affordable housing.
So what are the tea leaves saying? That they won't give us money for senior housing?
Well, the tea leaves say that the state is especially interested in workforce housing, and the state, I'm going to guess, is especially interested in helping communities implement the new MBTA communities housing requirements.
If they want to give us a tea stop, I'll take that too.
Oh, yeah, no, without a doubt. So we can hold on to that, but that's a property that we may want to consider. We may want to, quite frankly, contemplate whether we want to dispose of that property during this high market. You know, I think we paid $375,000 for it. It's 1.3 acres under current zoning, which is another impediment, not insurmountable, that we'd have to address to develop that for denser housing. Under current zoning, it could be, by right, a single-family house, could accommodate a single-family house. It could potentially be subdivided like the old property on Prescott Street, Rich Boydak's house. Or it could be, by special permit, multifamily housing. I can't remember what the number of units is, probably about a dozen or so. So there are a number of outcomes that are possible with that. But municipal use right now, given the realities of public housing construction, senior housing construction, and the money's available, the size of the lot, and quite frankly, the time that it takes to actually assemble these tax credits and developers or not, it's a question of whether we might want to consider disposing of that property sooner rather than later. I'm just giving you an update on the committee's discussions today. If that's the case, we can have a much more in-depth conversation.
Okay.
There's also a hope that possibly looking at it for municipal parking was another aspect that I know that had been kind of thrown around.
Yeah, we should say that I think when the committee task force first convened in December, we were looking specifically at housing. It seemed to be a good fit. It seemed that if we were willing to put some of our own funds into it, because of its adjacency to the Shaughnessy apartments, there might be some things that could be done to correct existing deficiencies up there. But having learned more, it's a long path, quite frankly. So,
and Mr. Chair, just to add to what Mr. Duffy was talking about, there are specific properties that I think each meeting that we have, we've been meeting at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, looking at different ideas and ways of utilizing those properties. But also, Mr. Duffy is also kind of keeping open communication with private property owners as well too. So there are other pieces of property in the downtown that may have some action in the coming future. So he's trying to at least keep in contact with those people as well, so that once we get word that there's movement, then we can kind of put it into the mix too. So we're not trying to just kind of focus just on one or two things. We're trying to look at a broader kind of strategic plan, but there's only so much we can control, and it's only so much that seems to be happening, month to month. So,
Sure.
so we're trying to keep on top of it as best we can.
Okay.
Now, was your initial question about the armory and the potential for the involvement of that task force? Was that what you were inquiring about?
Not necessarily, just that I wasn't sure who's doing what for this. We didn't do a feasibility study the first time on the Armory, did we?
No, we'd received a proposal in December of 2020. I think the fee at that time, proposed fee at that time was $29,500. At the time, the Armory was, at the time, there was a separate task force that was in place. And the opinion of that task force at the time was that the Armory was not likely to be acquired by the town. This is for the idea of, obviously, of other potential properties coming into play. With the renewed interest in the Armory, I've reached out to the architect who prepared that proposal for us. They are interested, but quite frankly, they are exploring whether they have time to do it, quite frankly. Again, everyone's busy. So this would have been an assessment of the facility, eyeball assessment. We wouldn't have been structural demolition, but it would have looked at certain conditions that we know about. There are visually perceivable structural concerns about the building. There are concerns about contamination in the old shooting range in the basement. I think that if the town were to entertain acquiring this property, I think we should know what we're getting into. And the purpose of this study would have been to flesh some of that out.
How soon can we proceed with that? I mean, we only have until June, correct?
Right now, yep.
I don't have an answer for you tonight.
The hope is by next meeting to be able to have something to go forward with, because I think it would be important to have that information so we can make some decisions. And even, we talked about it today at our meeting, and the superintendent of schools has some ideas of potential uses. It's a big building, so, there's concern about how we would utilize it. But I think there are ideas out there on how it can be used and other programs that can be relocated for space that is going to be used for other things in the future. So, but I think that's key is to have that assessment so we know what we're faced with, but also, as Mr. Kerrigan indicated, that maybe can go back to the state and say, hey, we're interested in this building, but there's a huge liability. So, if you're going to help out other communities, we'd like some help too. So, because we think it's important to keep the building, we have a public use for the building, but, if it's in run-down shape, they hopefully can help us out.
And I don't know what shape it's in, but the pictures I saw from, what did they say, Salem or New Bedford? It's one of New Bedford. It was not good. So they don't have much on us, I don't think, in this department. So, I mean,
They're willing to help us.
yeah, I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of hope for the property, frankly. But if we can get some help to get towards shoring it up at least, so that it's not a huge liability while we're sitting on it or figuring out what we're going to do, that is a totally different thing in my opinion. So,
But I think there are some possibilities, I think, out there on how to use the building. So whether it's a community center or a rec center, but I think the school maybe has some uses during the day, and then maybe, afternoon, evening for more community uses. So I think there's a potential there if we can find out what the cost is, and
because, I mean, realistically speaking, Phil and I were on the library thing, and we looked at, possible options. There was small, medium, and large, and I'd like to think that building's in better shape than the Armory, but that was a significant number. So I know everyone's excited about this, and hey, there's a lot of things we could do, but I don't think it's just putting wallpaper up and patching some floors. So,
Is there a possibility of securing someone who can do some sort of evaluation or
I will
by the next meeting?
I will do my best to find that out for your next meeting, because the clock is ticking, and they would need time to do their work, so.
We can get back to the state and say, we need this, this, and this.
And if we can reach out to maybe Representative Kilcoyne or Senator Cronin on what they can do to help leverage.
all right, so I'll put a follow-up on our next meeting just to see where we
Okay,
are.
great. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Duffy?
Okay, thanks very much, guys.
There is no administrative business. We'll go on to old and new business. The Board of Health recently conducted a very successful distribution of COVID home tests at a drive-through clinic at the middle school. They still have about, despite going the full 2 hours, I'm told, it was 2, I think, have half their stock left. They're looking to us to see if we have any direction. So the options informally put toward me were another clinic, saving some, although I'm not sure that these things last forever, distributing them to frontline employees or town employees. The Board of Health is open to any suggestions we have or requests, I think. I know there are some people who couldn't make that clinic who are still looking, but I also know this weekend's booked. There's a road race at the middle school on Sunday that parking lot's full. So do you have any insight on this, Michael, about
I would like to see, I think the Board of Health was open to maybe doing another distribution clinic. I think that would be great. If the people, I think, really appreciated the one that was done, and if we could do another one, and even if there's some left over at that point, we can always stockpile for future use. There is a use-by date on them. Unfortunately, they don't last forever, but I think certainly the schools could always use some. First responders could use them as well too. So I think maybe giving it one more shot of another clinic, and then if there's leftover, I think the town could then hold on to the remainder at that point. So.
Great. Any other suggestions?
I was just wondering, was there a limit to how many someone could pick up, like
I think it was 2 per car.
2 per car?
Right. There were two tests.
2 tests per box.
Yeah, two per box and
2
two
boxes
boxes per car that were getting them. Yeah, and we had ordered 2,000. So
there's about 900
probably a
left.
little less than half of those left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hearing no other obligation, I guess. Oh, sure.
Michael, what's the status with the seniors? Those were our vulnerable population. I know I talked to Devin in the past, but are they basically all covered, the seniors?
Yeah, they had gotten the Board of Health had help from their Fitchburg consortium had gotten some for the seniors as well too. So certainly could check back with them to see if they need some more, but they had done a distribution up there as well. Yeah.
So do we need a vote on this, or can we just advise you to tell the Board of Health that we're okay with this?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah,
Great.
it would really be up to the Board of Health.
They gotta
so just
schedule
let
it and
them
everything.
know that the Board of Selectmen is good with that.
Is it okay? We're in favor of this?
Yes.
Terrific. Okay. Thank you. The Finance Committee is proposing to begin joint budget hearings with the Board of Selectmen next week on Thursday, March 10th at 6 p.m. in the chamber room of the Town Hall. Unfortunately, I have a new job, and it's our annual meeting from 4 to 8, so I will be unable to make it, but I will get caught up. I don't want to hold this thing up.
Mr. Chairman, if you want, I can make the meeting.
That'd be great. Yeah, and it's a joint.
It's for both boards.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
both
can
boards.
make
So
Right, yeah, just
The
want to make
idea
sure
is
the
to-
date was good for everyone before we committed to it.
normally, just as a reminder, normally we meet with, I guess, the big 4, big 5. This wouldn't be schools. Police, fire, DPW, and facilities. Is that the plan?
Right, yeah, depending what we'll have available.
Okay.
You know, we'll talk to the departments, and once we get the date set, then we are going to try to do 2 big meetings.
Yep.
Police, fire, DPW, facility, school, senior center, library, parks.
Okay.
To get started. And then at that point, the boards can decide whether a 3rd meeting to bring in other departments or to just have a general talk, or how you want to handle it. So probably talking 2 or 3 meetings to kind of go
Okay.
through it. And then each board can do their own work after that if
Yep.
need be. But I think it'd be good to have discussion with the departments together, so.
Great.
Is there a possibility of maybe looking at this Friday night, however the tournament plays out? Because if Clinton advances,
Oh, they play
Then-
Thursday?
then you don't know when the next round of games is going to be, but if you can't be there and I can't be there as well.
Oh, you're out Thursday too?
Well, I'm just,
Oh.
there's that range. They give you basically a 3 or 4 day range of like when the next set of games gets
Oh,
played. So I'm
okay,
just
okay.
saying that if Clinton advances on Friday, we won't know until, if there's a game on Thursday, then I won't be there. But
Yep.
as unlikely as it might be, but rather than commit to it and say no.
We've got, I mean, we have to post in 48 hours.
Just
so-
48 hours, yeah. And I'd rather have it where the board, as many of the board members can be there as possible. So I would, think at least that first one should be mutual convenient where everyone can make it. And
Yeah.
I think early in the week, there was, I think, a board member on the finance that wasn't available, so they pushed it to later in the week. So it really should be a date that everyone can be there. Then once you're all there, you can set your schedule for the next one. So, but so if the two of the members are going to be tied up, I definitely want to look at another
We'll know
day.
Friday night.
All right, let me know
We should know
Friday,
Friday
and if
night.
there's two of us who can't, especially we're on the budget committee, so if, we'll stick a pin in this, and then Friday, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to post until Tuesday anyway.
Yeah, so we won't have to, so Monday, you wouldn't have to post till Tuesday, so
Okay.
you'll know by Friday, you said, right?
All right,
Yeah,
perfect.
Keep
Okay.
us posted.
When will they set the dates?
I would imagine within the next day or two after, it's probably by Sunday, they would at least
Oh,
have the
okay.
schedule for the following week is
Oh,
my guess,
perfect.
but.
Okay, excellent, good.
okay.
Yep, good. No, I appreciate that. That's, like I said, I'd rather have you there than not, so, yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Moving on, the town administrator reached out to the police chief and fire chief, and there is interest in taking over following in my shoes as, did I?
Surplus property discussion, or did you
That
just
was
pull
what
that
I
under
covered with
Phil?
Phil, sorry,
Gotcha.
I was looking at my script here. Big shoes to fill, big 11s you gotta fill there for this thing. Yeah, everyone talks until they gotta step, until it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and someone's got a basement flooded, on Mother's Day. True story. There is interest, so I guess the thought was we could maybe, because our new state director called me the other day, and he's raring to go to get our strategic plan in order. It's only going to take an hour and a half. So I think the idea, Michael and I spoke before the meeting, is to perhaps get the deputies to see if they're available and see when I'm available, and to sit down with interested parties to see how this might mesh as far as what we're doing now and what we'd like to do going forward. There's very boots on the ground aspect of this. Unfortunately, a lot of the guys work DPW, so during storms and flood conditions, they're very busy. So, but there's also, a ton of opportunity out there. We're talking about ARPA before. Just my feeble management got us, I think, $3,500 in state money that we're going to get some new pumps and some cots and a generator from. So there are opportunities for this sort of thing to at least stock our cupboard better, and to make sure, God forbid, something happens where CEMA truly is needed, that we're a lot more better prepared than they have been for the past year. So, so let's connect offline on that and see. I'll talk to my guys and see if they're available and when, and we'll continue that discussion. So I appreciate the board's
Great.
indulgence
Yeah, that's
here.
what we'd like to do, is the next step is to have police chief, fire chief, and some people from CEMA to give us a history of the organization and kind of all get together and talk about, what would work and what each department could do, or how it's best to proceed. But, so once you get back to us on
Great.
your availability, then we'll set up from there.
Okay,
So,
great.
thank you.
Moving forward, we're going to table the Assistant Town Administrator Search Consultant out of respect for Ed, since he's been involved on that. We'll move, any other old and new business? New business, just to follow up on what Phil mentioned about the middle school. We received approval today from the state to move on to the feasibility phase of the middle school project. As a reminder, the town meeting approved $1 million for a feasibility study. There's been much work to go into, that went into before we even got to that stage. A lot of meetings talking about demographics and anticipated populations, and they don't leave anything to chance at that level, trust me. So this is a great step forward. Michael, I don't know if you have any more details to add. There's obviously a lot more to come, but this was a big benchmark we had to get over, and I'm very happy to say that they approved it earlier today.
Right, just to follow up, Mr. Chair, you're right, this is the next big stage. So the state has agreed now to reimburse us for the feasibility phase. So that money has already been appropriated by the town last year. Now they can go. Now we've got the authorization to go forward to hire a consultant, project manager, which will then put together a study saying, look at the building, can it be renovated? Do we need to build new? Where would it go? What should be done? That would probably be about a year process. We can't get into the construction phase any sooner than summer of 2023. So there's no need to rush this, to make sure we do it right and get a good project, and then hopefully be able to move forward to a construction phase once that's determined. But it was good news. This is where it's starting to become real now. The superintendent and his staff has done a lot of work to get to this point. Now it's actually going to start putting together assessments and schematics and really talking about a real project now, which is great.
Terrific. Any other old and new business?
Yes, I was wondering if there's any update on the Human Resources Director position.
We've gotten the applications, most of the resumes are in. Myself and the superintendent going through them just to kind of have a cursory review. And the last time we used a search committee, and we're kind of looking to do that process again. So I'll talk to the chair to see if someone on the board would like to be represented on that. But we have probably a little over 40 resumes. We have several applicants that are from either state or local government, so I think there's a decent pool. So we'd like to get started on that now. So myself and the superintendent are reviewing those this week, and then we'll see if we can reach out to a search committee next week to get started. So.
Perfect. And then was there anything on, do we know anything about the Parks and Rec Director, if that position has been interviewed or?
What I just spoke to one of the members today, just a call to ask me a question on that process. So I guess their deadline has passed as well. They had a subcommittee of their group, of their board, that had gone through and reviewed some of the resumes. So they're posting now a meeting, I believe, for next week to interview 2 candidates that they felt were at the level that they would bring before the board. So they'll be doing interviewing next week on that position. So
Very good.
Any other old and new business? Hearing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Hearing none, that is the end of our public agenda. We will be adjourning to enter into executive session twice, both under Article 3 of the Open Meeting Law. First, for collective bargaining prep with department managers from police, fire, DPW, and facilities. And lastly, for an update on school non-union negotiations. We will not be re-entering open session. Otherwise, except for the purpose of adjourning the meeting. There'll be no votes taken. So the regular business is taken tonight. I will do a roll call to enter into executive session. Matt?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
And the chair is aye. Our next meeting, John, usually get this on, what are we?
22nd, I think. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh.
You better just want to split the month up.
16? 16th, I'm sorry.
16th. It's March 16th. And stay tuned for a joint meeting with the Finance Committee. Thank you and good night.